Check in 1, 2. All right now. All right, greetings out there in the old internet world. A lesson for you on the pentatonic scale and why it is so important to the guitar. Now, something interesting to observe. If you look at the open tuning of the guitar, right? You've got E, A, D, G, B, and E. Lovely. If you were to put those in alphabetical order from E, or in musical alphabetical order from E, you would have E, G, A, B, D. You would have what is commonly referred to as the minor pentatonic scale, the E minor pentatonic scale. E, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D. So the guitar itself is tuned pentatonically, and because of this, I would say it's even more vital to learn the pentatonic before you learn the major scale, and to learn the pentatonic everywhere before you learn the major scale. And even, there are 5 notes in the pentatonic scale, so we could derive from that there are going to be 5 positions of the pentatonic scale. Similar to I'm sure some of you have heard of the caged system, C, A, G, E, D, right, to help us learn our major scales, but even more fundamental is learning these pentatonic shapes all over the neck. So we'll look at all of the shapes, and we'll look at ways to practice them and to improvise with them and to learn from them. And we'll start in the key of E, just because the guitar is very friendly to that key. And we're essentially going to take the tuning of the guitar, right, and put the tuning everywhere, all over the guitar. So we're sort of taking the bare starting point of the guitar, putting it everywhere. So let's start with the E minor pentatonic scale. And I'm sure a lot of you know this. I'm going to give us a drone. Well, everyone knows this, right? We know that sound, right? If we're starting at the low E, open 3, open 2, open 2, open 2, open 3, open 3 if you want. Bringing that down. Let's keep going with the next shape. That's starting at the E. Now let's start at the G. I'm going to keep the drone in E, but now we're starting on the third fret of the low E, right? Or the next note in the scale, and that would be. Once again, that's 3, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 4, 3, 5, 3, 5. Let's keep going. Up to the next note in the scale, which would be an A. Up to the next note in the scale, you'll be starting on B. And up to the next note in the scale, you'll be starting on D. And then you could go up to the 12th fret and repeat that, which is essentially where we started with the open strings, but now we're an octave higher. Now, notice we're doing this all with that E drone underneath, so we're hearing it as an E minor sound. Now, perhaps you've heard of relative major and minor. If we were to do the same exact thing, right, but instead of having an E and a B droning, we had a G and a D droning. I'm going to do the same thing again, same notes, same shape, same scales, but everything's going to sound G, E, G major E. There's my starting position. Next one. Starting at the A. Starting at the B. Oh, forgive me one more time. And starting at the D. 15th fret. Good times, okay? Now that's all in relation to G as the tonic, but what's cool about these scales is, you know, we're going to be very comfortable with the E minor sound and the G major sound, but every one of these can sort of serve as a tonal center, or a center of the scale. So for instance, let's drone A and E. All right, I'll drone that. And I'm going to go through the scales again with A and E in the drone. Starting on the G now. Throw one more time. Starting on the A. Here you'll really be able to hear it. Starting on the B. Starting on the D. And back to the E. Okay, so all of these can sort of stand alone as their own scalar reference point, but of course through our culture and through the sounds we're used to, we're going to hear the E and the G as the strongest, and it's helpful to be able to conceive of it that way, to hear it that way, and to acknowledge wherever you are on the neck and whatever position you're in, if you can acknowledge what's the major root and the minor root, and also to acknowledge, you know, what sound are you really in? Are you in a major sound or a minor sound, right? It's not the same as, oh, I'm using a G major pentatonic over this sound. Even if that sound is someone strumming E minor all day, that's still an E minor sound. You want to, just because scales share the same notes does not mean they're the same thing, right? The relationships are different. For instance, when E is in the air, using that E pentatonic scale, I can think G. Doesn't matter if I'm thinking G. What are we hearing? We're hearing E, right? I can think G major 7. I'm still hearing E. It doesn't matter what I'm thinking, okay? We probably want to think correctly, or as correctly as possible. So how to practice these, right? Ideally you want each of these shapes to be solid, ingrained, and familiar. So something I like to do, let's say we're going to start with sort of the tried and true, this guy. What I like to do initially, just to get used to the shape, is we'll go through all the keys. So we did it in E. Let's go to A. I'll drone an A, and then I'll move that up. Same pattern, but starting on the 5th fret. Up a 4th to D, and do it on D. You know what's next? Here comes G. Up a 4th to C, do it on C. Next would be F. This is also, you know, force you to think in fourths, which is important. Next would be B flat. All the minors. E flat. Playing a bit. There. A flat. Almost done. D flat. Getting there. F sharp. B natural. My goodness, we're getting there. And E. I got a lot of drones going on, don't I? E. We're back to E. So that was with one shape. Ideally we want to do this with every shape, and what's funny is you can play with the relationships, right? So if I still want to think in minor, right? All right, I'll drone the E, but I'll start in the next position. Right, and then I'm moving to A minor, droning an A, but starting in the next position at the 8th fret. Are you following? Going to the next minor, a 4th away, D, and starting on the next note of the D minor pentatonic, which would be F. Right, so we're still moving the minor tonality in fourths, but we're juxtaposing a different shape over it, right? So this is one way to start to deal with this. Another way is just pick any key. Let's do G minor, droning it. And just the same way we did with E, go through all the shapes, up and down. Next one. Going up just to save time. Not down. And the next one. This is very important, okay? You should do these things. It will help you, I promise, okay? Now then, another way to deal with this is to not think of it and hear it in terms of the minor tonality, but to hear everything in terms of the major tonality. So if we go back to our starting point, right? We go back to our starting point, but now instead of droning E and B, I'm going to drone G and D. All right, and I'm going to pick another shape. I'll pick the second shape. Use that major sound. Then time to do it in C. Drone the C. Do that shape in C. Play with it. It's fun, right? And notice, of course, we're just going up and down. But then, once up and down is fluid, try groupings. For instance, threes. Fours going down. Fives. That's fun, right? Different groupings. And then, of course, just play with the thing. Little slide. That's a really happy slide between, if you're in both keys, major and minor, but if you're in major, for instance, C major, the slide between the D and the E, so sliding from D sharp into E natural, or from E flat into D natural. I hang out there too much, probably. Good sound, right? So there's C. Let's go to F now. Now, if you do this shape of F down here, you're going to have to bring in open strings. That's nice. Okay. So this is something to do with every shape, okay? Let's try the next shape, the more obscure shapes. Most of us are, if we've been playing guitar a while, we're probably a little familiar with the minor shape and this minor shape and this major shape. But what about this shape? If we're back to our original starting point, that E minor pentatonic, if we're starting on the A, this 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, that's a nice start. 4, 7, or pardon me, 4, 8, 5, 4, 7, 5, 8, 5, 7. So moving that around, right, and think of it in to intervallically understand it in relation to E, so you're starting on the fourth, right? 4, 5, 7, 1. You see what I'm saying? Minor 3, 7. Understand it in terms of G, right? So that's 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2. And then understanding it in terms of A. 1, 2, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. All these ways of looking at these things. And of course, when you get burnt out and exhausted thinking about it and trying to understand it, just play the thing. That's A. I'm going to do it fourth up starting on D. I'll even drone the D. Down to the G. Same shape on G. Moving on up to C now. Let's do a few on the next shape, right? So this is an interesting shape because, well, if we're thinking of the intervals as starting from the root of the mode, we could say, of this pentatonic scale, the root of this thing, there's no 5. It's a 1, flat 3, 4, flat 6, 7, 1 in relation to the major, in this case G, as the 1. That's, what's that, 3, 5, yeah, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, there it is, right? And then in relation to E, as the 1, the minor, that's, let's see here, we got 5, 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, all these ways of thinking about it. And it's good to think about it, but you want to hear it too. For instance, I'll do that with the E in the drone, that shape. Let's do it with G in the drone. So now we kind of hear it, we'll hear it as major. And then we can try once with the B, the root of the mode in the drone. So all these ways of dealing with these shapes. Let's do the last shape out, and we'll do it. Let's hear it in relation to minor. So I'm droning the E minor, or the root and fifth of E rather. That's all we need, because the minor third is in the scale. And good times. Let's do it in relation to G. Then in relation to itself, as in the D and the A are going to drone. I'm going to try that drone again there. That's nice. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1. Well, I hope that is helpful. Got any questions? Drop some questions. In short, it's vital to learn your pentatonic shapes all over the neck. You could say the guitar is a pentatonic instrument. It's tuned pentatonically, right? So if you're fretting about major scales, but you haven't learned your pentatonics, well, chill out on those major scales and do your pentatonics, right? Isn't that a band? It's also a band, I think. So hang out with pentatonics and you'll be a happy camper, I promise, because they're fun. This is all pentatonic here. There's some florals in there. Well, there's always more you can say, like, can you do them on one string? And the next string. And then the next string. And the next string. And then my low B string. That's fun. So, well, I guess that's all for today on pentatonics. Learn these shapes. You'll be happy you did if you don't know them already. Adios.